I recently finished my first year at Cornell University, and when I was going into my freshman year, I watched as many Cornell related videos and things online as I could because I was really nervous about knowing what I was doing and stuff, and so I thought I would make a video like that and try to spread what I learned in my first year and also include some updated information because there have been some recent changes that are being implemented this year. I have sort of this list of a bunch of things that I thought would be important for first year me to know and possibly first year other students to know. And so I have a lot of general tips like Cornell things, and then I also have a few arts and sciences things and a few bio things that I'll touch on at the end that are more specific to those areas because I'm a bio major in arts and sciences, but I'm not pre-med, so I don't have any pre-med advice, so sorry. I thought I would go in chronological order, so before you even get to campus, here's a few things that are important because I was super lost. So first and foremost, read your student email. Your email is going to be your net ID, which you should have gotten at some point. It consists of your initials and then a number, and then basically that's your net ID, and then your email is your net ID at cornell.edu. It's a Gmail account, and then you just log in and it'll give you all the information throughout the summer that you're gonna need, and read all of those emails because otherwise you're not gonna know anything. Another thing before you get to campus would be to go on the student essentials page. So that's if you go to cornell.edu and then there's a bar at the very top that says students, faculty, alumni, stuff like that. Click students and then you'll have the student essentials page. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the Student Essentials page, there's going to be 3 columns, and at the very top of the middle column, which says Academic, the first one is going to be Student Center, and this website is really hard to navigate on mobile, and that should have a to-do list. It's called a to-do list on the right side, and it should list anything that you need to do. There should also be information about any sort of holds that are preventing you from registering in the university, things like that. That's also where you sign up for classes, which I'm not going to go into that process right now. But on the Student Essentials page, in addition to the Student Center page, click on all of those links that are in those 3 columns and just make sure that all of your information is in there, correct, up to date. When it comes to classes, I would recommend figuring out your class schedule before the pre-enroll period, which I don't know when that starts, but it's sometime later in the summer. So know what classes you want to take and what times you want to take them. But keep in mind your college's credit hour limit. So for arts and sciences, that's 18 credit hours. And also keep in mind your desired major and your college requirements. So that's distribution requirements, things like that. And also figure out how your AP credits factor into your requirements. So depending on what your major is, what classes you've taken for AP, they might correspond to some of your requirements, but they also might not. So there's going to be information on AP somewhere on the Cornell website. It's pretty much just a case-by-case basis, so I don't really know. Also with classes, the way that you find out information about what classes are there, in addition to each website for each major and each college, there's also the class roster and the course catalogs. The course catalog might also be called courses of study. So those are 2 different things, and you should look at them both because the way that you search for classes on those sites are different, and also they provide you with different information. So under the academics column on the Student Essentials page, and then if you click course and class resources, it will give you the class roster and courses of study. Look at both of those, figure out how both of those sites work. Another thing, when you're looking at the class roster and stuff, look at when the classes are available because there are some classes that are only offered in the fall semesters, each year. There are some classes that are only offered in the spring. There are some classes that are only offered every other year. Things like that when you're scheduling classes or planning ahead for the next couple of years, just keep in mind what semesters those classes are offered in. One of the other things is schedule your classes during reasonable hours. So they will offer evening classes. I wouldn't recommend it because even in the summer that might feel fine, but once daylight savings happens and it gets cold in the winter, you're not going to want to leave your room past 4 p.m. So just don't do that. if you don't have to. But there's some situations where you do have to take evening classes where like that's the only way that required class fits in your schedule, but try to avoid that. And also don't take an 8 a.m. I know everybody says don't take an 8 a.m., but like if you're sitting there thinking like my high school started at 8 a.m. or even earlier, like then I can get up at 8 a.m. and go to a class. My high school started at 8 a.m. and I had a 9:05 and I was like miserable. But this past semester, all of my classes started at 10:10 or later and I was like thriving. Like it was so much better. Also, schedule your classes evenly as possible throughout the week. Don't schedule 5 back-to-back classes on 2 days like I did. I scheduled 5 back-to-back classes on my Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then my Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays all had 2 classes each. But on those days where I only had 2 classes, I was like, I have so much free time, I can do whatever I want. But also on those other days where I had all those classes, it was so bad. I went home exhausted with a headache. I felt like unwell after going to class. Like it was really, really bad. Don't do that to yourself. So when you sign up for your FWS or freshman writing seminar, which everybody's gonna have to take at least one. I think there's some situations where you might be able to get out of the second one from like AP credits or something. I'm not really sure. Figure out if you have some sort of special situation, but if you don't, you'll have to take 2. I would actually recommend taking FWSs that are outside of your major because that'll sort of help like vary your range of classes that you're taking in your freshman year. So I would recommend once you have your classes figured out, look up where all of your classes are and like find the buildings so that you can find them later during orientation week. And also if you scheduled any classes back to back, make sure that those classes aren't too far away from each other so that you'll be able to get from one building to another within 15 minutes. So don't have classes back to back like all the way across campus. Another thing, find out what textbooks you need. These will be posted closer to the start of the semester. If you go to store.cornell.edu, you can log in and then go over to My Curriculum is what it's called, and then you click on it and then it'll give you a list of the textbooks that you need for your classes. If there's a class that you're not sure about, don't buy the textbook right away. You're not going to be expected to have the textbooks the first day of class unless the class says that you need one of the books or all of them like on day 1, which I haven't had a class that said that, but I don't want to say that it's never going to happen. So also another thing, I would recommend joining like Facebook groups. I literally made a Facebook account only so that I could join Facebook groups for college. People will post about themselves, and also there might be group chats available. Like people will say like, oh, I'm making a group chat for this club or this major or this residence hall, things like that. So I'd recommend joining those group chats just so you can like send out a message and people will read it. Because not everybody will read all of the posts in the Facebook group, but if it's like a text situation, it might be easier to communicate with people. Also, check the academic calendar. There's also something called Key Academic Dates, which is on the registrar website, which is registrar.cornell.edu. The academic calendar is like when breaks are and stuff, and there's also a few other things like when the residence hall's open, but also the key academic dates on the registrar's website talk about when the add drop period starts and ends, when pre-enrollment starts and ends, when you sign up for classes, also when your breaks are. So basically I would recommend definitely checking out the key academic dates, which basically includes everything on the academic calendar plus more. Now starting with when you're actually on campus, I'm going to be starting with like orientation week and then I'll get to throughout the year. So on move-in day, just like a little hint, you won't get in trouble for moving in outside of your time slot that's assigned to you. I mean, probably don't show up first thing in the morning or anything, but if you show up like slightly before or after, like nothing's gonna happen. I think I moved in like 20 minutes early or something. Nobody said anything. Also in your dorm, make sure you know where the closest doors are. I had a fire drill the first night I was there. Also know where your laundry, your trash and recycling are, and where the vending machines are, which should be near the laundry. It might not be, I don't really know. Mine was like in the laundry room. So also when you're getting around campus, all of the buildings will be labeled like on the building, on the outside of them, and they're all in Google Maps. So if you just like put in like the name of the hall or building or whatever, it will show you how to get there. So just some orientation things also. Go to like orientation activities, like actually do them, because it's better to just go than to not go. And also the group chat thing that I mentioned before, if you join those group chats, you can like send a message and be like, oh hey, does anyone want to go do this thing with me? Whether it be like an orientation activity or going and getting food. But also don't be afraid to do things alone. It took me a while to like get comfortable with eating alone at the dining hall. So there's also a couple important apps that you're going to want to download. There's Cornell Dining and also Get, or like GET. So Cornell Dining is basically an app that just has like all of the dining halls and like cafes and stuff on campus listed, and then they also have other food places that are in College Town listed, and it'll tell you whether they're open or not and also what stuff they have there. I use that like multiple times a day. And then the GET app, or Get, I still don't know if it's Get or GET, but it will tell you how many meal swipes you have left for the week, how many BRBs you have, how much laundry money you have. Also, if you have like the City Bucks or like your Cornell card money, it'll tell you how much is left on that. And you can also, through that same app, reload money onto those various accounts. So regarding BRBs, what I didn't know for like a really long time was that there is a convenience store, or like kind of a grocery store, on North Campus. There's another one on Central Campus. They take BRBs for all of their like food, and you can get most essential food items. There's also a convenience store at the Cornell bookstore on the basement level, or like first level, but they only take cash. And also they don't have food, they just have toiletries and stuff. Another thing, confirm whether your classes will be having labs or discussion sections during the first week of classes. Every once in a while it'll line up so that you end up having like a discussion section before you have your first lecture class. And lots of times they say, we're just not gonna have discussion sections the first week because it's just gonna be like the intro lecture and you don't need to like discuss that. But also sometimes they say do come to section on the first week, so confirm with each individual class. So some things throughout the year, something that I think caught a lot of people off guard is that it will be very, very hot the first couple of months. So bring summer clothes, don't just bring like one pair of shorts, but also check the weather multiple times throughout the day, especially during like the fall, because you should anticipate needing multiple outfits throughout the day because of how fast the weather changes. Or if you're not changing your entire outfit, you might need to be changing your outer layer a couple of times during the day. And also throughout the year, back to the BRBs, use your BRBs at a reasonable pace. Everybody that I talked to by the end of the semester was always either like completely out of them or hadn't used any of them. So just like keep an eye on how far you are through this semester and how many BRBs you've used, because they do roll over from the fall semester to the spring semester, but they don't continue from the spring semester to the next school year. Another thing, especially during the first week, like the first couple of times you go to class, go there early so that you have time to like wander around the building and find the room, especially if you have a class in Uris Hall, because the numbering system on those rooms is really illogical. Another thing that I would recommend is be familiar with your class's policies on missing and dropping exams and assignments and participation and stuff like that, because most of the classes are going to have some sort of policies of like you can miss one exam, or you can miss this many homework assignments, or you can miss this many poll questions in lecture, things like that. So just know in case you like get sick or something. So sort of like along with that, because there's so many things where you can like drop the lowest score, it's also kind of hard to calculate your grade, and also final grades won't really be like calculated throughout the year. They'll be posted at the end on Student Center, but your grade throughout the semester isn't really going to be updated very much, and lots of times they're like behind on uploading grades and stuff like that. And so at least in my experience, it's really hard to know how you're doing like throughout the semester. And so basically the only way that I would recommend like dealing with that is to just focus on like doing your best on each assignment, because there's no way to know how you're doing in the class. I mean, some of them have had a % in the class on Canvas, so just like be prepared to not know, because I was like really frustrated. I still kind of am frustrated with that. It's just kind of annoying. So here's a few things that are arts and sciences specific, because I'm in arts and sciences, and one of the big things for arts and sciences is the foreign language requirement. I would recommend doing your foreign language requirement during the first year, or like as soon as possible, especially if you're continuing with a language that you learned in high school or like already kind of know. because the longer you wait, the more you're gonna forget. But if you're not starting a new language, you have to take a placement test and you have to sign up for the right class at your skill level, because I mean, obviously if you sign up for one above your skill level, you're gonna be struggling, but if you take one that's below your skill level thinking that it's gonna be an easy A, the instructor will probably be able to tell. And also, I was in a Spanish class and there were a couple of people who were above the level of the class that I was in that class, at least to start off. They eventually ended up dropping it, but they were like really, really good, and they would like raise their hand and like talk all the time and like didn't really give the rest of us a chance to like practice and learn. And also I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing at all, which I mean I kind of didn't, but like I don't know, just having other people that were so much better than me in the same class all trying to learn together was like really hard, because I am not super good at Spanish. So another thing, take a PE class your first semester and try to take the second one ASAP, because you don't want to be a senior taking a PE because you need to graduate. Also, if you take PE classes during your freshman year, a lot of other people will also be taking their PE classes freshman year, and so it's an easy way to like meet other freshmen, because it's going to be a lot of freshmen there unless it's like an advanced PE class. And then also, if you live in New York State, you might be able to find a similar major or even the same major in Cal's, which is a state school, and it's cheaper for in-state residents. But also there's one other college that's also a state school, but I can't remember what it is. It might be like human ecology or something. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but Cal's definitely is. So some bio major things, because I'm also a bio major. There's a lot of requirements for both the major and for concentrations. Look at the requirements. And also somewhere online there's going to be sample schedules for bio majors provided, and basically it'll sort of like lay out like what general order you should take those required classes in. But also check out the concentrations that they offer and sort of keep your eye on which one you might like, and when you're making your choices about which math you're going to want to take, which organic chemistry you're going to want to take, and which intro bio like cluster classes you're going to want to take, and choose them according to what concentration you are interested in or don't. I mean, also you can just sort of like get a more general understanding of biology instead of focusing everything like on your concentration. But for me personally, I am an EEB or ecology and evolutionary bio concentration, and so I want to avoid like microbiology and biochemistry and things like that as much as possible. Another thing, general chemistry is really hard. I haven't taken it, but I've heard it's really hard, or like the professor's really strict or something. I don't even know, but I will be taking it next year. I didn't take it last year because I wasn't able to get into it before it filled up. So I didn't take it, and I was just sort of like hearing a bunch of other people talk about how hard it was. So if you don't think that you're going to be like ready to take a really hard class right off the bat, just push off general chemistry, because there were so many people who would complain about it, and then I would be like, oh, I'm not in Gen Chem, and then they would be like, oh, you're so lucky, you're so smart. Why didn't I do that? But also take general chemistry as early as you can, because you gotta get it out of the way. Also take your general bio cluster, which is like in the requirements, it's always like the first 3 classes listed. You have to take 2 out of the 3. Take them during your first year. Also, the investigative lab apparently is also super boring. I don't know, just like a lot of like work that doesn't really have very much payoff, and you also have to do it sooner rather than later to like learn lab skills for other labs for other classes. Also, Math 11-6, which is calculus for the life and social sciences. It's a lot harder than people think. Like, I took that class last semester, and the entire semester everybody was complaining about how hard it was and how it made no sense, myself included. That class made no sense, but I don't know, I got through it, but people were like, I thought it was gonna be an easy class. I thought it was supposed to be like an intro level class, but they like didn't explain any of the concepts. They just like got us right into like working out the problems and stuff, and it just like, it wasn't the best class. Like, I wouldn't recommend it unless they do some like major changes this year, which is definitely possible considering how much people complained about it last semester when I was in it. But, you know, as it was last semester, I wouldn't recommend it. Another thing, 1780, which is apparently one that people like to put off. It's not that hard, it's just a lot of memorization, And if you're an EEB concentration, you're going to want to do it earlier on. It's a prereq for a lot of other evolutionary bio classes. And then the most important tip of all, I saved the best for last, of course. Every once in a while they will have a dog or a puppy in the Office of Undergraduate Biology, and you can go and pet it. So those are all the tips that I have. And there's definitely a lot that I'm missing, but generally that's sort of like the most important advice and tips as far as like practical advice goes that I have for the first semester at Cornell. So if anyone ever finds this video and watches it, thanks for watching.